The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. Part 24. Book 3, the 36th chapter, The Vain Judgments of Men. The Voice of Christ. My child, trust firmly in the Lord, and do not fear the judgment of men when conscience tells you that you are upright and innocent. For it is good and blessed to suffer such things, and they will not weigh heavily on the humble heart that trusts in God rather than in itself. Many men say many things, and therefore little faith is to be put in them. Likewise, it is impossible to satisfy all men. Although Paul tried to please all in the Lord, and became all things to all men, yet he made little of their opinions. He labored abundantly for the edification and salvation of others, as much as lay in him and as much as he could, but he could not escape being sometimes judged and despised by others. Therefore he committed all to God, who knows all things, and defended himself by his patience and humility against the tongues of those who spoke unjustly, or thought foolish things and lies, or made accusations against him. Sometimes, indeed, he did answer them, but only lest his silence scandalize the weak. Who are you, then, that you should be afraid of mortal man? Today he is here, tomorrow he is not seen. Fear God, and you will not be afraid of the terrors of men. What can anyone do to you by word or injury? He hurts himself rather than you, and no matter who he may be, he cannot escape the judgment of God. Keep God before your eyes, therefore, and do not quarrel with peevish words. If it seems then that you are worsted, and that you suffer undeserved shame, do not repine over it, and do not lessen your crown by impatience. Look instead to heaven, to me, who have the power to deliver you from all disgrace and injury, and to render to everyone according to his works. The 37th chapter. Pure and entire resignation of self to obtain freedom of heart. The Voice of Christ. My child, renounce self, and you shall find me. Give up your own self-will, your possessions, and you shall always gain. For once you resign yourself irrevocably, greater grace will be given you.
How often, Lord, shall I resign myself? And in what shall I forsake myself?
The Voice of Christ. Always, at every hour, in small matters as well as great, I accept nothing. In all things I wish you to be stripped of self. How otherwise can you be mine or I yours, unless you be despoiled of your own will, both inwardly and outwardly? The sooner you do this, the better it will be for you, and the more fully and sincerely you do it, the more you will please me, and the greater gain you will merit. Some there are who resign themselves, but with certain reservations. They do not trust fully in God, and therefore they try to provide for themselves. Others again at first offer all, but afterwards are assailed by temptation, and return to what they have renounced, thereby making no progress in virtue. These will not reach the liberty of a pure heart, nor the grace of happy friendship with me, unless they first make a full resignation and a daily sacrifice of themselves. Without this, no fruitful union lasts, nor will last. I have said to you very often, and now I say again, forsake yourself, renounce yourself, and you shall enjoy great inward peace. Give all for all. Ask nothing, demand nothing in return. Trust purely and without hesitation in me, and you shall possess me. You will be free of heart, and darkness will not overwhelm you. Strive for this, pray for this, desire this, to be stripped of all selfishness, and naked to follow the naked Jesus, to die to self, and live forever for me. Then all vain imaginations, all wicked disturbances and superfluous cares will vanish. Then also immoderate fear will leave you, and inordinate love will die.
The 38th chapter. The right ordering of external affairs. Recourse to God in dangers. The voice of Christ.
My child, you must strive diligently to be inwardly free, to have mastery over yourself everywhere, in every external act and occupation, that all things be subject to you, and not you to them, that you be the master and director of your actions, not a slave or a mere hired servant. You should be rather a free man and a true Hebrew, arising to the status and freedom of the children of God, who stand above present things to contemplate those which are eternal, who look upon passing affairs with the left eye, and those of heaven with the right, whom temporal things do not so attract that they cling to them, but who rather put these things to such proper service as is ordained and instituted by God, the great workmaster, who leaves nothing unordered in his creation. If, likewise, in every happening, you are not content simply with outward appearances, if you do not regard with carnal eyes things which you see and hear, but, whatever be the affair, enter with Moses into the tabernacle to ask advice of the Lord, you will sometimes hear the divine answer, and return instructed in many things present and to come. For Moses always had recourse to the tabernacle for the solution of doubts and questions, and fled to prayer for support in dangers and the evil deeds of men. So you also should take refuge in the secret chamber of your heart, begging earnestly for divine aid. For this reason, as we read, Joshua and the children of Israel were deceived by the Gibeonites, because they did not first seek counsel of the Lord, but trusted too much in fair words, and hence were deceived by false piety.
The 39th chapter. A man should not be unduly solicitous about his affairs. The voice of Christ.
My child, always commit your cause to me. I will dispose of it rightly in good time. Await my ordering of it, and it will be to your advantage.
The disciple. Lord, I willingly commit all things to you, for my anxiety can profit me little. But I would that I were not so concerned about the future, and instead offered myself without hesitation to your good pleasure.
The voice of Christ. My child, it often happens that a man seeks ardently after something he desires, and then when he has attained it, he begins to think that it is not at all desirable. For affections do not remain fixed on the same thing, but rather flit from one to another. It is no very small matter, therefore, for a man to forsake himself, even in things that are very small. A man's true progress consists in denying himself, and the man who has denied himself is truly free and secure. The old enemy, however, setting himself against all good, never ceases to tempt them, but day and night plots dangerous snares to cast the unwary into the net of deceit. Watch ye and pray, says the Lord, that ye enter not into temptation.
End of part 24.